Hello, we are standing inside the Forbidden City in what I think is one of the most interesting exhibitions of the palace at the moment. And right next to me, here, you have the saddle of an emperor that was called Huang Taiji. But if you come a little bit closer, you can see that this emperor of the Qing dynasty, he ruled from 1627 to 1643. Now that's a little bit strange, because the Qing dynasty in China does not start till 1644. So how come that an emperor could rule the Qing dynasty before the Qing even came to China? The answer is that the Qing dynasty actually existed way before it ruled China. The Qing dynasty rulers, the Manchus, they came from northeast China. And they had for a very long time prepared themselves for taking over parts of China or all of China if they should have the opportunity. They had literally, in Shenyang, made a copy of the Forbidden City, where they would make a bureaucracy and an organization that mirrored the Chinese one. So when in 1644 you finally had the chance, then they were more than ready to take it. But it was not Huang Taiji that was able to finally get into China. It was his son, Shunzhi. And you can see Shunzhi's saddle over here. All of these saddles that are inside of this exhibition also tell a story of their own. Because even though you had prepared yourself for years to plug into a Chinese bureaucracy, the Manchus also wanted to preserve their own culture. And they felt very connected with their horses. They did not want to lose this connection to their old culture. So the emperors would be seen riding in the streets in a whole other way than you had seen before, where officials and the emperor himself would be carried inside sedan chairs. The Manchus wished to have a very strong connection with their nomadic cultures, and the horses was a very strong part of this. Apart from that, if you come over here, you can see that we have 8 uniforms. Now these 8 uniforms, they represent the 8 banners, the army of the Manchus. When the Manchus came into Beijing, the city would be occupied and the inner city would be divided into zones, and only the people affiliated with one of these banners could live inside these areas. So you literally had a kind of segregation, some would even say apartheid. Another way of preserving the Manchu culture was simply by making people all grow a queue. If you was a person of the male gender, you were obliged to have a queue like the one you can see here in the picture. Otherwise, you would simply be sentenced to death because you had not submitted to the Qing dynasty. You can also see that we have bow and arrow here. That was also something that you felt very connected to as a Manchu. And you would have tests just outside this exhibition hall where you would test the Manchu's ability with bow and arrow. Because if you did not have a certain ability with this weapon, then you were not seen as a proper Manchu. Nevertheless, when Shunzhi, he died in 1661 from smallpox, then a lot of officials around the emperor, they felt that the Manchus had given in to Chinese culture. They had preserved the Ming dynasty officials. They had taken over the bureaucracy of the Chinese. The eunuchs of the palace were still here. So when Shunzhi he died, a letter from him was found with 14 regrets, 14 things that he did not think well of that had happened under his rule. And prominent here was that the Manchus had simply become too Chinese. But a lot of people argue today that this letter is probably not genuine. They think that it was written after the death of Shunzhi by princes inside the government that wanted to get their power back from the Chinese-dominated bureaucracy of the palace.